I can hear you now.
Welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, not bad. I was in my house cleaning
Awesome.
while my wife took the kids out, so I was
Oh
blasting
man,
my.
even the legends in the game have to do the cleaning of the house. Huh? Nobody can escape the wife game.
Well, the thing about it is, I don't trust anybody to clean my house, including my wife, the way I want to do it. That's the thing.
That is awesome. Well, we appreciate you taking time out. I know we were trying to get it going in the last episode of ours. Really appreciate you. Welcome to the Garage Talks. First and foremost, got to start with my brother. Testify. Gotta testify in this business, right?
Absolutely.
Devon Dudley, Devon Hughes, legend in the game, one half of the Dudley boys. You know what's crazy? I was reading this week that it was Batista's 20th anniversary in the business. And a lot of people were not mentioning that Batista was initially introduced as a guy with a briefcase, as somebody's tough guy going around SmackDown back in the days.
Well, it's funny how some people in WWE don't want that secret to be out. It's like a dirty little secret.
Oh man.
I still have to say a lot of times about how I thought the Reverend Devon gimmick was going great. And
absolutely.
Someone during that time, the powers that be, did not feel that way. And so with that being said, it was kind of like, okay, they ruined it. And again, I've said it in numerous interviews that I have a very good feeling who it was, but I don't really like to say it because me and this person is very good friends. And I think that person knows that I know that they messed me up.
That they messed you up.
Right, but that's fine.
That was a gimmick that, a lot of people were actually very impressed with, because we've seen like later in the years that when Bubba went and had his Will Singer run in TNA and Impact, a lot of people were kind of comparing it to the Reverend gimmick, saying that had the people been behind him, maybe Devon could have been, one of the best singles runs of his career at the time.
Well, I always say this: Bubba had a great run in TNA as a singles competitor, but you have to put in perspective that Bubba was allowed to call his own shots in TNA.
Right.
There was nobody there to stop him from, being Bully Ray.
Correct.
And with that being said, could he do that in WWE? See, that's the thing. So TNA, okay. And I don't like to take anything away from Bubba, because again, Bubba did a great job.
Sure.
But at the same token, Bubba was also in the office at the time, and he was also, very close to Vince Russo. Right. So his ideas and what he wanted to be done with the Bully Ray character, he was able to do that. Now, the question is, would he have been able to do that in the World Wrestling Entertainment in WWE? That's the question.
And I think that's where we see a lot of this discrepancies or wrestlers jumping promotions. As you know, the culture in the industry is changing. For a while, we didn't have a second promotion that was giving wrestlers a chance, and kind of a little bit of freedom of what we call creatives. And so do you think, all the chit chat about wrestlers not having creative control in the WWE to the extent that they would like to have it, do you believe in that, or do you think the culture is changing and they're transitioning to that phase?
Well, that has been something that has been expressed by different wrestlers over the years, different eras, different generation. You have the Attitude Era, where a lot of guys did not have creative control unless you were in WCW.
Mm-hmm.
And, like we all knew that a lot of people over there had creative control. During the Hogan and Andre era, Hogan definitely had creative control because he was the Babe Ruth at that time.
Correct.
Of pro wrestling, so he had the right to have creative control. And when you look at it nowadays, who has that same type of run or stigma like Hulk Hogan or like Ric Flair or like The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin that could actually call their own shots? And Vince trusts them enough to say, okay, what's your idea? Okay, we'll do it this way. We'll do it your way. You have to really, really convince Vince that you know what you're doing and you know what you're saying, because so many people have said that to him and bombed.
Right, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so I can't blame the man for not having the structure the way he did. Listen, if WCW would have had the same structure that the WWE had, if the WCW would have had a Vince McMahon, WCW would have still been around. I firmly believe that. Too many cooks in the kitchen in WCW. Right. And again, I don't have to go on and say, we all know, because we all seen the rise and fall of WCW, and we all know what went on. We all know what went on back then, but it was too many cooks running the kitchen. So my opinion, if Bischoff would have ran his ship like a Vince McMahon, or someone would have came in like Vince McMahon and really nailed everything down, WCW probably would have still been around. Time Warner would not have lost so much money where they would have been eager to, keep renewing the contracts with pro wrestling. Now,
based on, as we're talking about the business and the multitude of things that involves in it, I like to mention a few things. For example, you have been an ECW champion, you have been a TNA champion, you have been a WWE champion, SmackDown and Raw back in the days in the the Ruthless Aggression era, where they introduced the tag team belts for each different shows. Now, what was your favorite run as a champion? Like, was it a certain company? Was it like being the SmackDown champion or being the tag team champion on the Raw side? Like, what was your favorite run as a champion? Was it in TNA?
Well, my favorite run was WWF.
WWF.
I say WWF because that was when the Hardys and Edge and Christian and the Dudleys first started.
Right.
We had a point to prove. We were hungry. Vince gave us the ball and let us ride with it. And, even when we weren't facing the Hardys or Edge and Christian, we still hit home runs every time we got in that ring. So my thing is, I was happy with that run. ECW, definitely happy with it, but I was still very green.
Right.
I was fresh out of wrestling school when I got to ECW. And yes, there were grown men in ECW at the time that had been around the business and knew exactly, what to do to make it. But I wasn't confident in myself back then. I was confident in myself when I got to WWE. That was when I think I was at my best. TNA, I used to say a lot of bad things about TNA, just simply because I was very unhappy with management at the time. With management, not the company in itself, with management and the way the direction it was going, especially my last year there. I thought it was god awful in terms of the management.
Right.
But as far as the fans go and as far as the talent go, I had a good time with them. The whole Aces and Eights thing I thought was great.
That was phenomenal. One of the best groups put together in recent times.
And I don't know if people know that, but that was all Eric Bischoff.
Oh, wow.
just like he did the NWO.
Right.
He also was responsible for Aces and Eights because of the television show Sons of Anarchy.
Gotcha. Okay, see, that's a little revelation for our team. Didn't know that.
He basically came up with that idea, and he said, how do we do it in wrestling? He came up with the whole concept. I mean, Bischoff is a genius. I mean,
absolutely, bar none. One of the best. Best brains in wrestling history, absolutely, no question.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand what people might say about the rise and fall of WCW,
Sure.
but think of all the home runs that he did do. Think of beating the WWE 80 something weeks in a row, however long it was.
Absolutely.
I mean, and then think about what he did with the whole aces and eights thing. I mean, did he hit a home run every time? No, but he did a damn good job when he did.
He got a lot of rights. They're wrongs, but he also got a lot of rights.
Exactly.
Another question I would like to ask you is, nowadays we're seeing that there's not your traditional tag teams, right? It's like a storyline happens and another one happens, and then it's like they have nothing to do with these superstars after their storyline, so they throw them together and now it's a new tag team. What are your thoughts on that, how the traditional tag teams are reducing? They're not like they used to be. Like the Dudleys were always there. Hardys were always there. Edge and Christian, they were always there.
Here's the deal. The Dudleys were a tag team at first when we first came into the business. So we did what we did in ECW. We did what we did in WWE and TNA and Japan and so forth and so on. We were a legit tag team. We weren't just two guys put together who had great singles runs and you didn't know what to do with them. And now all of a sudden they're in a tag team.
Right.
I think that's where wrestling is, in terms of tag team wrestling, where it's not happening anymore, because right now you don't have any legitimacy in tag team wrestling anymore.
Correct. You only have like a few teams like the New Day and the Usos.
Right. And the Usos, right. Or even RK Bro, even though Randy was a huge success on his own, I think him and Riddle are doing a phenomenal job in working together. And that's a testament to Randy. And I say that because a man who was a huge success in singles now all of a sudden is taking a back seat in terms of sharing the spotlight, and now is doing a tremendous job. So my hat goes off to Randy. I think one of the tag teams that I think a couple of tag teams that are great nowadays that I've watched, I think is FTR, the Revival.
Yes, the Rivals. They're FTR and
I like Revival. I think Revival will probably be as close to a legitimate tag team as you're going to possibly get in this era. Okay. I also like the Briscoes, them boys.
They're good.
I like them.
They're good.
I saw them for the first time when Bubba left the company and tagged with them in ROH. And I really didn't get to see a lot of them, but it was the first time I saw them. And then I just saw them recently do a promo, cutting at them boys. And I was actually extremely impressed. I love their promo skills. I love it. And then I saw them wrestle Revival. And I keep calling them Revival because I can never remember their other name. But I saw them wrestle Revival. And that's as a classic wrestling match as you're going to get nowadays.
Textbook tag team at its best.
It really was. And my hat goes off to those guys. Listen, everybody can sit here and say who's the greatest tag team of all time. Everybody is going to have their mind made up or opinion, right, on who is the best tag team. Listen, every era has that. And I like to put this like in basketball. Dr. J, Julius Erving, and then Michael Jordan. You have some people before Michael became Michael saying Dr. J was the greatest of all time. And then Jordan did what he did, and that just blew everything away.
Correct.
And now all of a sudden you got the era of LeBron James. And of course that argument is always told, who's the best of all time, Michael or Jordan. I'm sorry, I was there for Jordan. I watched Jordan. I've seen Jordan play live. I've seen that man do incredible things. And to watch the documentary,
The Last Dance. Oh yeah, that solidified, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, and to hear the fear that Jordan put in people. When you opened your mouth, you knew he was going to score 60 points on you, make you look stupid. So you didn't do that. And there was a lot of people saying, "Man, shut up! Don't talk to Black Jesus. Don't talk to Black Jesus like that. Leave him alone."
That's so true.
And I mean, even who's the guy from the Pacers? Oh
Paul
God,
George?
I'm sorry.
Paul George, or are you talking about the old school Pacers?
No, the old school. The 3-pointer.
Reggie Miller.
Reggie Miller. You know, he even said, he opened his mouth one time, and then all of a sudden, that was it. And he's like, at that point in time, I never referred to him as Michael Jordan. It was either that guy or MJ or Black Jesus.
He changed the Black Jesus.
Yeah. So, and my point to that story is everybody, even in basketball, will say who's the greatest of all time. Correct. It all depends on what era you're in. Like a lot of people got mad when the WWE said that the New Day was voted the greatest tag team in the world, or in the history of the business. And again, for this era, of course, because the fans of this era,
it's the newer generation,
Day, right? And they're seeing the success of the New Day. Half of these fans weren't even born when Bubba and I were wrestling.
For sure.
So even at the peak of our career.
That's crazy. What do you think? I'm sure you've been watching it recently, but it's the Usos that have a little move called the One Day. Have you seen that?
Well, yeah, because we talked about that way before they did 3D. They came to me and said, "Devon, do you mind if we use 3D?" And I said, "Hell yeah!" I said, "Use it." I said, "It's an honor." I said, "We don't use it. Bubba and I don't do it anymore. I don't wrestle."
Right.
So, hell yeah, do it. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you're paying tribute to us.
Absolutely.
So when some people get mad at that, you know, I'm like, dude, grow up.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're paying homage to you. Relax.
Right.
You know, you could be forgotten like everybody else in this business, but you're not.
You're okay with the youth or the new generation of wrestlers using your moves to pay homage, and you appreciate them contacting you and being like, "Hey, do we have your blessings to use this and stuff?"
You have to understand, I worked for WWE as a producer, so how many times have I had the Usos and the New Day's matches? And
it's too much now, and it's good every single time. Somehow those boys put together a show. It's phenomenal every single time.
And I was very happy and honored to be a producer on the majority of those matches. Awesome. My last time with them was in Wilkesboro, PA. It was for SmackDown. And I'm going to say it was October 29th, somewhere that last Sunday in October, because I had to leave and go get back surgery. Right. So, you know, again, that was the last time I had to work with them. And again, I remember they had always been saying they wanted to use the move. And I kept telling them, use it, do it.
Right.
And even on Twitter, when they did do it, I said, that's right. I gave them, you know, I'm so happy that they did it, you know, finally.
Right.
It's not because I didn't want people to sit there and start mess. Oh, you know, they're using your finish. What are you gonna do? I'm not gonna do a goddamn thing, but sit here and be happy. That's what I'm gonna do.
Absolutely, they're paying homage. Why not? What do you think? Let's see. I'm gonna try to put you in the tough spot, and that's tough because you've been in the game for so long as a wrestler, as a producer. You know everything about it.
You could try.
I'll try my best from a fan's perspective. What's the Mount Rushmore of tag team wrestling, according to you?
Oh, man.
We got 4 spots.
Well, LOD is definitely one.
Okay.
The Midnight Express.
Okay.
The Rock and Roll Express.
Okay.
But see, man, there's so many.
See, I told you I would try. There's so pure wrestling tag teamed in this business over time that people don't recognize.
You have to understand, I just named the majority of NWA, WCW guys. But when you look at it, it's a very hard it's a very hard thing for me to say, because you have the WWF at the time, the British Bulldogs, the Hart Foundation, you know, so many other tag teams, Demolition, So
You had
many
your
tag.
you had your Wild Samoans. You
Absolutely,
had
Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas.
you had APA. Dudley Boys are there. Hellraisers. Jared Claw
Well,
and
I
Big
don't.
Love.
Well, hold on. I don't put myself. I let the fans do that. If they want to put us on the Mount Rushmore, then they can say the Dudleys. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna be. I'm like a. When people ask me that question, I look at it like I'm a fan. Like Devon Dudley and Bubba Ray Dudley didn't even exist. I'm looking at it as if I'm a fan watching wrestling right now. Who do I think would have been the Mount Rushmore? So again, it's very hard, but definitely LOD would definitely be up on there. And again, I think the British Bulldogs. I was a huge British Bulldog fan growing up. I love the British Bulldogs, and I actually remember watching Saturday night's main event with the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation, and a 2 out of 3 fall match with Danny Davis on the outside and Santana in the British Bulldogs corner. And I thought that, I've watched that match over and over again. I remember telling Natalia, before her father passed away, tell him I said, thank you for all the great memories. And I started reciting that match spot for spot because I've watched it so many times. I was such a huge fan of it.
That family is definitely one of the, sometimes I like to say, like the forgotten family of the business. There's so many good pure wrestlers that have come out of that, technical and skilled. Do you think a wrestling team of today's era, or let's say the PG era, can survive in the Attitude Era? You know, the question that everybody asks. Can the wrestlers of today survive in that locker room?
Absolutely. I think the Usos would have survived. I think the New Day definitely would. Let's go. Let's not even just do tag. Let's not do tag team. Let's just talk about singles. I think Cesaro would have definitely lasted.
Right.
And I said this to somebody else, Dean Ambrose, or Moxley, John Moxley, but I call him Dean Ambrose.
Right.
So I believe Dean Ambrose would have been a perfect fit in ECW. I think he would have did a tremendous job there. But again, he was born too late. So
right.
you know.
What do you think about who's your singles? Let's talk about singles run. Who's on the Mount Rushmore of singles wrestling?
Well, if you talking about the four, you definitely have Hogan and Flair.
Okay.
You definitely got to put The Rock in there. And Steve Austin. The Rock, in terms of promos, I like to say helped change the way promos were done, even though Flair did what he did. Right. But still, The Rock came in and he was so entertaining.
Right. And I think the way he captured the attention of the people too, that changed the game for everybody. Yeah,
even when The Rock had a 25-minute promo, you were entertained for that whole 25 minutes. And you knew it was going to be very entertaining. So that's why I put The Rock in there. And then, of course, Steve Austin.
Absolutely. Okay.
So that would be my four.
What do you think about, and I say this with complete bias, my favorite wrestler of singles today is Roman Reigns. Because I've followed him from the days when he was getting booed. He wasn't a good wrestler. He wasn't good on the mic. And I think the whole tribal chief gimmick, having Paul Heyman, who I think is the best talker in the business, on the mic after CM Punk. I think that Roman Reigns is the flat-out best wrestler, total packaged, in today's business. But, people like to throw in your Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson. They like to throw in Kenny Omega. Who do you believe is the best single wrestler in the business today?
Well, again, not just because I work for the company still, but I have to agree, Roman Reigns is the man right now. Okay. And he's in the top federation.
Right.
He's in the number one federation in the world. So that makes him number one.
Right.
Regardless to what people might think with other wrestlers being in other companies like AEW, Impact, or Ring of Honor.
Right.
Roman Reigns right now is the top dog. He is the head of the table. He is the tribal chief of singles wrestling. And until somebody knocks him off that pedestal, that's exactly what you're going to have.
Who do you think that can be? Who do you think can knock the tribal chief out? There's rumors. WrestleMania 39, we're going to be in LA. He has a very famous cousin. We don't know if he's going to knock him off the throne, but that's the word. But who do you see as the guy can knock the tribal chief out?
Can The Rock do it? Yes. But I also think Rocky is very happy in Hollywood.
Right.
I think he would be crazy to actually leave Hollywood to come back to wrestling. He'd be out of his mind.
But do you think he takes the one-night match? Maybe not win, but do you think he takes the match?
I don't think it might be one. I don't think it'd be one match. I think it might be one. I think it'll be two.
Like a Royal Rumble to WrestleMania kind of plan.
It could be, or maybe even three matches. You just never know. Rocky right now is the man in Hollywood.
I agree.
He calls his shots.
I agree.
He can do whatever he wants to do. And now that Will Smith did what he did, Rocky's definitely the number one.
Rocky is the guy right now. That's
Rocky's the definite guy because he was, it was. Some people would say it didn't matter even if Will didn't do what he did at the Academy Awards, but still, The Rock is the man right now.
And how are things backstage now compared to 10 or 15 years later? How's that communication between the wrestlers and the producers? Because, fans always read these articles, right, that come from sources that somebody went in backstage and they were upset with Vince or they were upset about the storyline or something like that. There's tension.
Listen, I tell people this. Listen, hold on, let me stop you. I tell people this. At your 9-to-5 job, do you get upset at your boss sometimes? Absolutely. So is everybody going to be happy with Vince and what he says? No.
Right.
Some people are going to be happy? Yes. So the relationship between the wrestlers now compared to when I was there, I think Vince is a little bit more hands-on now than he was during the Attitude Era. Okay. He was like Michael Jackson. You couldn't get fired with his bodyguards. You had to really, schedule an appointment to speak to Vince back then. And you have to also remember during the Attitude Era, and I always say this, it was so powerful back then that a lot of people didn't need to really speak to Vince. The producers really, they were called agents back then. Right. Were able to talk to talent and relay whatever message that Vince needed them to do. And if talent needed to relay a message to Vince, it was done through the producers. But nowadays, I think the producers intertwine with talent a lot more than they ever did now. And, I feel that the WWE nowadays is a lot more powerful, a lot stronger. And to me, I just feel, and again, people are going to say, oh, Devon's only saying that because he's working for the company. He doesn't want to get fired. You're right. I don't want to get fired. But, there are matches that some people don't see, whether it be on a live event, on how these guys really bust their behinds and go out there and do what they got to do to entertain. We don't just cater to smart marks. We cater to the average wrestling fan that comes in, the parent that brings his kid or what have you, and that enjoys the match as well. We want to reach everybody. There are certain companies that only target one demographic of fans, and that's the smart marks. And as far as I'm concerned, the smart marks, it's like, I'm not going to let them dictate. I'm glad Vince doesn't let them dictate what they feel Vince should do. Vince is going to do what Vince wants to do and what's best for business. Absolutely. And that's what I like about it. That's what I like about it.
There's a term going around, forbidden door. If it were up to you, we'll try to end this show on a good note. If you were in charge, let's say you're Vince, right? And there's this Forbidden Door pay-per-view going on. What will be your top 5 matches? You take somebody from the WWE, you can take somebody from TNA, Ring of Honor, AEW. How would you put like 5 matches together? And if you'd like, you can name wrestlers, or I can throw names out, whatever you like.
Well, like I said, I'm a big fan of the Briscoes. I would love to see the Revival come back,
Okay.
And wrestle back and help with the tag team division here.
So would you do like a Revival aid Usos or the New Day or RK?
I think we've seen Revival and New Day a lot. And again, I'm not saying anything because people say, well, you've seen the New Day and the Usos as well a lot.
But money every single time.
Right. So, but I think definitely the Usos now.
They're on another.
Wrestling. Yeah, I mean, wrestling now against the Revival, I think you would see a little different compared to when they were here the last time. Because they worked with them before.
Right, absolutely. But I think everybody's progressed better.
It's a little different.
Your main event, Roman Reigns, the cream of the crop, our head of the table, the tribal chief. Who would you put him against? You got wrestlers like Adam Page, you got Moxley, CM Punk. There's MJW.
Well,
I think
you said it right there. I think CM Punk would definitely be a good one for Roman. I would like to see him. And what do you say, MGF?
MJF, yeah.
Or MJF. I think he'd be another one that would be good. But again, I don't know how they did it back in the day. When Vince's father, when they were territories, and Vince's father would talk to the NWA, or they would talk to the AWA, and bring in a Flair or a Dusty Rhodes for 4 months in a trade-off with somebody else. I think that camaraderie has to come in effect in order for that type of deal to happen. Because besides, who's going to go over? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Right. There's a lot of things that need to be played in. So I would love to answer that question. I don't know how I would do it because I don't know how they did it. Right. I don't know how Vince's father did it back then. But it seemed like Vince's father really had a good handle on it because he did that. He was doing that all the time. They were doing that all the time. They never stepped on anybody's toes in terms of going into a territory. One
of my last questions would be that we see these part-time wrestlers come back for one-off matches and whatnot, and then we see these celebrities come back, and it seems like this past WrestleMania, all the celebrities actually put an effort to throw a phenomenal match together. Logan Paul was there, Pat McAfee was there, the Jackasses were there. How do you feel about that concept?
Well, I learning from Vince behind the scenes, I understand why he does a lot of things that he does, because he explains it to us, the producers, and the writers backstage, why he does what he does. And it's strictly entertainment. You take somebody from Jackass, bring them in, make them somewhat a wrestler for the day. And I mean, hell, on the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania. You bring them in and they tear down the house. It's great. Right. You put the Paul guy in there with the Miz. It's great.
Yeah. But don't you think that there's also kind of a risk? What if it bombs? What if it doesn't do as good?
Well, here's the deal. I'm sure that they have been in the ring leading up to WrestleMania and trying to, just like everybody else. Listen, you leave, one company to go to another, and you have to make sure that you're up to par, especially if you come to WWE. You have to make sure you're on your A game and this and that.
Absolutely. 100%.
And I'm sure, given what we see nowadays with entertainers coming into the business, such as WWE, they've all been on point.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So this is not like back in the day in the Hogan and Andre era where like Mr. T learned one move, which was a great hip toss and a whatchamacallit, fireman's carry, and he threw Mr. Wonderful Paul.
Right. I think it was the fireman's. Yeah.
Right. But then, I also know Mr. T was blown as sky high. He was breathing heavy. He couldn't even celebrate when he won. But, you look at it that way. I just feel that, nowadays to bring in that type of talent in terms of the superstars, you're going to make sure that they're ready before they go on a stage like WrestleMania. So bomb? No, I don't think you'll bomb, because we have more than enough time to get these guys ready, to get them in there to have a great match.
Awesome. Well, I do appreciate you coming on. Unfortunately, I've run out of time. It's been a pleasure and an honor to talk to you, to gain all the knowledge that you've provided us. We'll definitely try to do this again, hopefully in person sometime soon. Anything you'd like to leave the audience with about the program, about the business, anything you'd like to educate them?
I mean, if you're an up-and-coming wrestler and you are trying to become a wrestler, don't go to a guy who opens up a warehouse and puts a ring in there and says this is a wrestling school. I can guarantee you that guy probably tried his best to make it in any federation and couldn't make it. So therefore, if he couldn't show you how to make it, if he couldn't make it himself, how's he going to show you how to make it? Anybody can teach anybody moves, but can you learn the right psychology? Can you, help yourself in and out of the ring? Can you do the right thing where you don't get fired? Things like that. So, I think I leave it on this note. If you want to be a wrestler, find a reputable school. Go to someone that's been somewhere and not someone who claim that they have been but never been.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. It's an honor to speak to one of the greatest tag teams of all time, at least in my perspective.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming into the Garage Talks. We wish you health, success in WWE. Hopefully, maybe see you on screen doing something with someone. A lot of people.
It's coming. It's coming soon. we got
some surprises in the works.
I've got my hands in some stuff. So
awesome.
Yeah. So I'm just waiting.
Perfect. So we'll wait for the right time to see you. More love, more power to you. We'll see you soon. And take care. Thank you so much for coming on yet again.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
All right, my brother. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.